My job for the next 25 minutes is just to see to explain to you what the current status is, where the lines of drama are at the moment, what we're doing. And these forums are definitely part of a big advocacy operation that we're doing. For those of you who are not aware of the history, and my gosh, there are a lot of legends around here. We welcome Nicholas Cole from Sandparks and people who really do know what's going on. Stian, Michael Brox mentioned before, these are people who've come through with Working for Water, Vessel Wenzel before. We on the advocacy side came through with the development of partnerships. The partnerships developed in 1998. Mornay and I started on the Nurseries Partnership in 2000, so we have gone right the way through on these historical partnerships. Forestry got a bit rocky along the way, and the pet trade has quite frankly just been simply hostile. So we are the remaining vestiges of the partnerships. In America, Roosevelt went into the Great Deal, and he built roads and he built bridges and he built railways. In South Africa, we are extremely fortunate that our poverty relief programs are environmental. And as a result, one has to appreciate that when the money rolls, and it rolls through an awful lot of Working For programs, it's terribly important for society and for what's going on. As I mentioned, Mornay and I started on the Jacaranda drama. I got a call from Guy Preston to say, listen, the Sunday Times doesn't think we should cut down all the jacarandas in Pretoria, so we need a bit of advocacy help. Please, can you come and jump on the team? And that was a very long time ago. Very sensible decisions were made on jacarandas. They're all still there, but I can tell you now that they're all disappearing because they've got a mite and they're all going to die anyway, actually. This is the current state of conflict at the moment, and we're waiting for legislation to catch up. We have the white dragon fruit, which is on the legislation, category 2, very difficult to work with. We have the pink dragon fruit, which is just as invasive. It's not on the lists. And as a result, we're facing with an awful lot of conflict as people try and deal with it. And in the media and in advocacy, we have friends. Tanya Visser is a very good friend of mine. She runs the Gardener and Detaineer. She phoned me up and she said, listen, our December issue, we're going to put dragon fruit on the front cover. But when you were talking to me and talking rubbish about all this invasive stuff, you mentioned that dragon fruit was a problem. Can I send you the 2 pages we're going to run, and you can see whether it's a good idea to run them or not? I put them through the system, and there's some sort of legends in the industry. Philip Ivey is one of them. He went berserk. He said, we have got to teach the advocacy. We've got to teach the magazines. They cannot run this kind of nonsense. Tanya said, no problem. I thought you and your team of invasive people would have hysterics. She pulled the story. It was going to be on the front cover. Her editor was furious. Not so much Go Platteland went ahead and they actually put it in. So what we've got here is something like we had in the 2000 to 2010, where we've got people who are consciously not promoting invasives for the sake of the environment, or they are. So please, if you choose to buy a magazine next time, please avoid Go Platteland if you don't mind. We are working with a lot of students. We have a student doing callistemon at the moment. We've just had a student who is doing a PhD on Patterson's curse. We require the public a lot to tell us what's going on. This Patterson's curse has been around for a hell of a long time, but it is increasing across the country. Point of this is that we put press releases into all the media in the Cape Town area. Not one of them ran the story. Point being, we have to run our own media. The media has collapsed. The newspapers are literally just not there anymore. The radio stations are having problems. And as a result, the only way we can get invasive species advocacy out is to do it ourselves. What are we doing? The project this particular year is very much more animal rather than plant orientated. Invasive rose ring parakeets are centerfold. We have a very big organization, the Parakeet Association of South Africa, which we negotiate with. There are a lot of people in our invasive ranks who believes the whole lot of these rose ring parakeets should be shot. I explained to the guy at Gateway that they should all be shot because Gateway in Umhlanga Rocks has a terrible problem with rose-ring parakeets. He said, what do you mean? Bringing guns onto the Gateway Mall premises? Are you mad? We will not allow you on the Gateway premises with guns. So, there's a lot of conflict to deal with along the way. But nevertheless, we are going to build on the old material from Australia, and then we will be producing a great deal of information, and we are already negotiating with the parakeet guys. This is where they are, not so much very lucky, not in your area yet, but stand by. They're on their way, and certainly we have a problem with them in other parts of the country. The social media success, and this is an example of parakeets. We put this up last month, the social media uploads onto our Facebook, Invasive Species South Africa. We get 66,000 people looking at it. Now, even when I was an editor back in the old days, we were looking at 40,000 magazines that were being sold for business-to-business niche-style environmental magazines. Social media is the way to go. And certainly, we're producing a great many packs, all these social upload packages, 4 pictures with all the information are available to conservancies and anyone who want to use them after we've used them or while we're using them to actually make sure that it goes out on their sites as well. Invasive mallards, terribly difficult. I worked for the City of Cape Town for quite a while. I'm constantly dealing with the tiger burger and a journalist there who basically goes into the small dams where we're removing mallards and in actual fact, does incredible stories of hysterical ladies who get very worried about us taking out mallards. Mallards are invasive. The City of Cape Town has to take them out. The George municipality has to take them out. It is the law. And we face a huge problem that Donald Duck is a nightmare. He has inculcated this whole idea of lovely Donald Duck, go down to the park on a Sunday afternoon, feed the ducks. Feeding the ducks is a nightmare. Bread is really bad for ducks. This is a stupid idea we have from back in the day, and we actually have to get across the idea that you don't feed ducks, and Donald Duck is fine, but we're actually going to remove all the hybrid mallards. The Marine Invasive Species program is a very new one for us. We've never worked on invasive marine before, so we are working on a partnership. We're working on a partnership with the aquaculture industry. The pilot project is to work in Saldanha Bay. We're going to work with the aquaculture industry to ask them to be a group of people who tell us when they see something amazing. So they're going to be the sort of the lighthouse of invasives in their area. And we're going to start that by doing the biofouling species, which they are very traumatized about. This is very new for us. All these aquaculture people are very suspicious of the invasive species sector, and they don't want it interfering with their business activities. So we will have to do a lot of genning up. People like Mornay, myself, Michael, Karina, Stian, we've got the beginning, middle, and end. We know about wattles. We know about all the plants, the cactuses. These are new to us. These are the biofouling species, which we've got to get involved in: white colonial sea squirts, boring sponges, and carpet sea squirts. And this is our new job. So we're moving into invasive marine species. And certainly it's going to be quite a wild one for all of us. In terms of the aquatic weeds, huge conflict up in the north, particularly as we come out of COVID, very big tournaments. Up until yesterday afternoon, driving to George, I actually had the convener of the European Tour March 2022 golf tournament at Peakenwood Club. Hysterical. He said, the European Tour TV people have come out here. When you watch a golf tournament from Sun City, they have a B-roll. And the B-roll is they go around and they take a picture of a crocodile, they take a picture of a heron, they take a picture of a bird. And he said when they come to Peakenwood, all they see is water hyacinth and purple flowers, and it's a carpet that goes as far as the eye can see. He said we've got to clear this. So I said, well, now we do partnerships. How are we going to clear it? And they basically said, he said, well, how much is it going to clear? So I said, it's going to cost 25,000 Rand. you pay the drone or the aircraft, and I will try and see if the government can supply some of the herbicides. 25,000, he said, no problem. When can we pay? Tomorrow. When will the helicopters be there? And this is the private sector basically saying that they will do it. I said, listen, we're a long way away. Debbie Muir's got to do a risk assessment. There's general authorizations at DWS. It's a program. But the point is that people are actually saying we'll come and we'll help. And that is the future. Public-private partnerships or MOUs. In this particular case, Rhodoplast was sprayed on by our great friend Fritz Leitner on Saturday morning. They took from about 10 o'clock till about 2 o'clock to spray it. And Debbie assures us that between 10 and 14 days' time, all this will disappear down to the ground, into the bottom of the dam, not environmentally friendly, but being done so the National Schools rowing tournament can take place on the 6th of March. Again, very much part of our new public-private partnerships and very time-consuming. The residents out at Rhodoplast are toxic, angry, furious, and really quite impressive. So that's why we take people like Mornay Fullhammer around with me, so that if there's any problems, Mornay's there. The green advocacy, very much garden centres, very easy. We've worked with garden centres before. They didn't want Plant Me Instead this time. So we went with a primary campaign, Become an Eco Champ. That is being prepared. All the Z folds and the posters and the digital material is all being created based on the Canadian campaigns. You'll be pleased to know we're going to lose the wolf. We don't need the wolf, but we are going to put these cartoons. And in terms of video material, we can now create very like life looking African heroes using video technology, and they will be go out with all the Eco Champ material. What's hiding in your garden? What's hiding in your park? What's hiding in your pond? Big ecological identification. We will be talking to people about look in your area, become an Eco Champ. You have to work. It's not a matter of write to the government and tell them it's their job and they must do it. Those days are over. That's not going to happen anymore. We've got to, in communities, we've got to take charge of this stuff ourselves. These are the latest mascots that we've got. Everybody loves the girl. The feedback is the boy's looking a bit shifty. So I've sent this back to the artists, and they've got to sort out, I don't know, his mouth or his eye. I don't know why he looks shifty. But shifty, I'm told, so he will be sorted out before he goes out. The nursery conflict still contains, we have to deal with nurserymen. They still believe that the lines of Droma are still in the ageratums, the cannas, the double oleanders. We're still fighting rearguard actions from the nursery industry, although I must say Stian's EMIs, the green scorpions, take no notice of these sterile cultivars, but we still are fighting for them, and there are people in the nursery industry who basically say they'll take the government to court if they infringe on these. A lot of these are given up, but a lot of them are fought for. The one that they're still fighting for is this Morea exotica. That's a very big deal. They're not worried about these ones at the bottom here, and they have scientific proof that the canna hybrids have nothing to do with canna indica. So that's where the lines are drawn at the moment. These are the What's Hiding in Your Garden pamphlets and Z-folds that will be going out with all the green scorpions, the EMIs, Environmental Management Inspectorate, and they will be going into garden centres, specifically regional, to say what's in your area. They will be digital. They will be downloadable by anybody from invasives.org.za, and this is just an idea of the two prototypes that we have so far. Invasive cactus, we're doing terribly well, but lots to be done there. And certainly from our perspective, cactus are a huge problem going forward. We know that they are repeat problems. We have these spectacular pictures from Rhodes University and Leslie Henderson to show what happens with these particular invasive species. Prickly pear, I say this is a public forum. It's not a public forum. I look at the lists, and there are very informed people here. So I'm not going to waste your time in assuming that you are new. You're not new. This is a very informed population of people that have arrived here. But nevertheless, we do have a problem with torch cactus, and we've had an even more problem this year because the torch cactus burst into flower during summer because of the Karoo rains, and of course all those Gautengers going to Cape Town, driving back to Joburg, they found them at all the pit stops and thought, oh, isn't that wonderful? Picked them up, cut them off, and took them back to their gardens. And you know, we've suddenly got sort of little hedges growing of torch cactus all over the country because everyone's seen these flowers, which we haven't seen for a decade. So huge problems there. Again, a pilot project in the Eastern Cape on radio, magnificently unsuccessful. We went to all the radio stations and we said, please can you tell all the farmers, advanced farmers, developing farmers, any farmers, that they can go to Rhodes University and they can pick up free biocontrol and they can put it onto their cactus and remove the invasives on their own farms. We did not have a single inquiry, and we went out to 12 radio stations. So again, the radio stations only have time for the Ukraine, Cyril, and basically what's happening in the electricity. And that's all they have time for. So we have to do our own media, and it's a waste of time to go through traditional media. It has just simply disappeared into nothing. These are the National Cactus Working Group have produced pamphlets and information on all the worst cactuses in the particular areas. There are quite a number of people from conservancies here. This may be useful to pick up and take down the ones that are in your particular area. And they certainly will be up on the websites in the next 4 weeks. We are starting to work about mammals. The mammals are not a particular problem in this area, major problem in the north of the country. And also, you know, we need to show people what a bongo is. We need to show people what all these, lechwees and boa constrictors. I have a reptile expert on my own staff running with the program. So, and the reptile guys are really scary. We don't like going to Pinetown anymore because that's where the big reptile club is. And they look like basically the Hells Angels motorbike club. And they take up 3 rows of the front of every forum we do, and they really are quite scary. We have to deal with, this is known everywhere as the Asian toad. In this country, we're not interested in talking about the Indian house crow or the Asian toad, especially when we're about to start a smear campaign. So on the interests of democracy and all that, we've turned it into the black-spined toad. Not a great deal of people have seen this around, but he is coming, and he could cause an enormous amount of trouble. And if we had only said the rose-ring parakeet is coming and dealt with it when it arrived, rather than, when it is now, flocks of 500 are flying across the Johannesburg skyline every evening, we would have done much better. We haven't quite worked out how to do this, but this is part of the advocacy operations. And then the media packages, as I said, a lot of media packages available. They will be available to everyone. So what we will do is we will put them into Google Drives, and you can basically download 4 pictures and a little square sort of thing which says what the toad is, and you'll be very welcome to put them up on your own Facebook pages. Material is very hard to come by. It's extremely time consuming to put it together, and we've got to work together on these things. The same with the house crow. This was the Indian house crow. It's now the house crow. That's all we talk about. A very big colleague of mine is working on the strategy for the country, Carol Jacobs, and we will be working more with her on the information. We'll put a toolkit together. The toolkit will include social media. It'll pamphlets and building on old material from the city of Cape Town and from the Australian material. This is no surprise to anyone from George. You are ground zero. They devastated Johannesburg, but, all your oak trees got wiped out. We had the pleasure or the not pleasure of standing in front of 200 people in Stellenbosch a month ago and telling them that the shot-hole borer is 5 kilometers away, that in actual fact all their oak trees are likely not to be there in 10 years' time, and that 80% of the urban space of Stellenbosch is actually exotic trees. And do they realize that in actual fact they're all all going to be gone in 15 years' time. Well, I must tell you, we were herded out of Stellenbosch in 5 seconds. They weren't too pleased about that idea, but there's some very worried people in Stellenbosch. We do know it's about being recorded scientifically and officially 5 kilometers. We know what it's done in George already, and obviously we're terribly worried about the Knysna forest. There will be more on this later, but certainly just to say that we are working with the best of the best. Heather is working in Vergeleken with the traps. Martin Hill, of course, is in Rhodes, and he has a whole big operation that runs out of Rhodes. And then, of course, the hero of all shot-hole borers, Willem de Beer in Pretoria, and Francois Roets in Cape Town. And these guys are working jolly hard, funded entirely, actually, for all their masters and PhDs from the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, so for which we are enormously grateful. Levels of shot-hole borer, the hysteria is over. We can't have hysterics. We're going to say exactly what to do with shot-hole borer. The advocacy going out this year will say, you have so many holes in your tree, therefore you have a low infestation, a moderate infestation, a heavy infestation. We will get people, instead of saying, I've got it, hysterical, the municipality must come and cut it out. Those days are over. They've taken 700 trees out of Johannesburg. They have taken 800 trees out of Cape Town. In Joburg, they still have another 500 dead trees to remove. In Cape Town, they're terribly worried it's going to jump Somerset West. And we've got some of our own ranks. Tony Rabella screaming that, in actual fact, shot-hole borers in the southern suburbs. Still to be scientifically confirmed. I said to Tony, listen, wait for the scientists to confirm this before you go sending letters to the newspapers. But, Tony Rabella is a sort of member of the family, national treasure, and we all have to just cope with that. In terms of the management matrix, we're going to be telling people these are the low-value trees, these are the high-value trees. What you do, is it a reproductive host, non-reproductive? Infestations, moderate, heavy, level, what you do, and this is what they do in California. So we are following all the California work, and we're saying we follow California, and this is what you're going to do. So we're going to tell people themselves what they must do. The major problem on shot-hole borer is that we cannot find dumping sites in all the major cities, and that's on account of the fact that the waste departments of every municipality are a completely different silo to the Parks Department or the Conservation Department. And we are fighting in Joburg to get new sites for these, but in the meantime, the private sector have come to the party, and places, private sector composters are at the moment accepting a great many of these infected shot-hole borer trees. Huge problem for us, because now we've got a huge hotspot in the northern suburbs of Johannesburg and Mildersdrift, where there's a hotspot on biocontrol. This winter, we will be running a Don't Move Firewood campaign. We're a bit worried about it because, in actual fact, the Don't Move Firewood campaign impinges on a major group of people, which DFFE and Working for Water have very close to their heart, and that is the poor. They earn a lot of money out of firewood during the winter period, but these are the campaigns that have been done overseas. These are the North American campaigns, and they have been largely worked on the Asian longhorn beetle and the emerald ash borer. But the whole idea is don't take firewood into national parks. Now, my colleagues tell me that it hasn't worked particularly well in Kruger. The situation with Kruger is that they just simply couldn't provide enough dry firewood in Kruger to cope with all the people. So the same situation will be happening here. We are putting these posters and Z-folds together. This is material, what you have to do with shot-hole borer, and again, talking a bit historically to you and George, and certainly in Johannesburg. Johannesburg, it's a real old story that's unsolvable at the moment. What to do with how to manage infested trees on your own property, what the dangers are, and the advocacy will come through this year. And then, of course, a picture of a last shot of the maples, Chinese maples in Stellenbosch, which was used for the Stellenbosch Forum presentation, because in actual fact, look at them now. We've got problems in the next 10 years with these exotic trees, for good or for bad. So anyone from municipalities must realize that there's a big issue. Quick run through. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Kay. As I said, please introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and speak into the mic.
David.
Ladies and gentlemen, this guy is one of the legends. We saw him on the list, but he wasn't here early. It's Arne Witt. A round of applause. He's from Kabi in Kenya.
Not anymore. Thanks, Kay. I feel bad now about sort of being quite critical in a way. I think you're doing great work, but I think an issue I've been going on for the last 20, 30 years is the fact that we don't have an invasive alien species communication strategy, and I've said this many, many times. We don't have a formal strategy in terms of how we're going to create awareness with regard to invasive alien species in this country. Which forms of communication work best for which particular target audiences, we don't know. We measure success of our awareness campaigns by how many pamphlets have been distributed, for example, not what impact that has had, if it's resulted in behavior change. And so we really need to, in my view, formalize the whole process, develop a strategy, and find out where we're going to get the biggest bang for our buck in terms of impact. And I think that is really, really critical. And I think you and your team are doing really great work. But like you said, it's every few years, you go on these road shows, and in the interim, what happens? My concern is we're losing the battle in South Africa in a big, big way. And we've all got to stand up and wake up now. Because everywhere you drive, there are new invasions. And so it's a challenge, but I'm just asking, isn't the communication strategy something we should be looking at developing? Thanks.
Arne, you're a legend, and we appreciate what you do, and we think you're marvelous. On number one, I think communication strategies are part of the old world baby boomers, huge big documents that go into cupboards and are never used. We don't have time for that kind of thing. We know what we need to do. In terms of the strategies, they are measurable. We don't just hand out the pamphlets. Actually, we don't even print them at all. They go digitally, and they are used by the pamphlets this year have been only asked for EMIs. EMIs need them to take them around. If the public want them, they just hand them down. So it's 2 pages basically laid out. And in terms of digital, there is very much a way of monitoring it. We know exactly how to monitor it. Digital marketing is a whole new field, and we've been working in it for 10, 12 years now. And certainly we have how many people are looking, how many people are getting through it. And certainly we've got a very good grip on that. And then finally, listen, there's nobody that works in this sector that is not traumatized about the fact that money comes for 3 years and then it disappears for 2. Welcome to the sector. Let's not get hysterical about that. That's the way of the sector. So as long as you can get over that, it's a high risk sector to work in. And as soon as they get everything under control, we get the money back again. So I do hear you, but it is an argument of 15 years ago that I personally don't think is quite as an issue as it was in the old days. I think we've just got to get out there, and we've got to get digital. But thank you. Lovely to have you here. Love you madly.
There we go. Do we have any more questions for Kay? Great. Then we can set up for the next speaker. Thank you very much. Round of applause for Kay.